right. Big news this week. The Fed is making the call on interest rates. It sounds like the anticipation is that it's going to be another cut.
Yeah. And so we've been watching this, and you and I have been chatting about it. And so the anticipation is pretty high, and the Fed has been historically pretty good about telegraphing what they're going to do. And so it seems almost apparent that you're going to get a 25 basis point cut on Wednesday. But are you fed up about hearing about the Fed?
Yes.
Right? So it's been so much. It's been a lot. And so 25 basis points is in the right direction for lower interest rates. But I'm always more interested in less about the cut and more about what they say about it afterwards, right? So after all of this time, you know that they have a dual mandate or two jobs. And they're in a predicament because they have this unemployment mandate and they have an inflation mandate. Inflation is not where they want it to be, and neither is unemployment. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that the economy is going to hell in a handbasket. It just means that they have a challenging environment. So it's probably going to be one of the few times you don't have a unanimous decision from the Federal Reserve governors on what's going to happen. So it's very likely you're going to get that cut, and then listen to the words afterwards, or you and I can talk about it next week, about what they say on anticipation for 2026. And so if they get to a number where they want to get to in 2026, that might be another 3 or 4 cuts in 2026. So that is good if you're trying to buy a home or want lower mortgage rates or trying to spur on the economy. But they're going to have that challenge of slowing unemployment while inflation isn't where they want it to be.
So going into, and we're talking about inflation, I saw this morning that there is conversations, it hasn't been announced officially, but at least AP is reporting that President Trump is going to go to Pennsylvania this week at Tuesday to tout his economic policy. I know Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was on CBS News this weekend talking about the shift to prosperity for next year. What do you see as far as some of the feasible policy shifts that the administration can do or Congress could do to start easing? Because obviously the Fed and their cuts are going to try to address inflation. But as far as when this buzzword affordability, like what could actually be done in your view?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So affordability, unfortunately, is a term that is nebulous, right? And it's different for you or I or somebody else listening to this show of what is affordability. And it comes back to a couple of things. Number one, we've talked about this a lot, this K-shaped economy. And so the K-shape is, if you think about it as a listener, half that bar is going up, and those people who are in a position where they're making whatever that number is, 100,000 plus, are they in a position to not be as affected? And then the lower half of the K, those folks are clearly affected by it. So let's talk about affordability. What goes into that? And that is, your daily expenses, and that is rental equivalency. Right? So that's, do you rent, do you mortgage, those costs. That is food costs, and that's energy costs. And so you think about if you had a way to lower any one of those three or all three of them, what would you do? And that is really the policy decision. So energy is something that you can lower, and it has gone lower. And so either whatever it is to create lower oil prices, more affordability there, that's one decision. Two, with real estate and rental equivalency, those are mortgage rates, and those are which is a longer term capacity issue, is where people are going to stay. And then lastly is food, and how can you do that? And so some are going to argue that the tariffs have caused food inflation, and maybe there's going to be some conversation there. So all three of those things are policy decisions that if you can either at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue or with Congress, make those more affordable, you should have those conversations. And by the way, that should be a political affiliation, should not matter. Both sides of the aisle should clearly try to make it more affordable for Americans.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is certainly a nonpartisan issue as far as people just wanting things to not feel as suffocating as I think some people feel right now. And so
I agree.
As far as that kind of being out of our hands when it comes to what the president or what Congress is going to do, when it is in our hands is year-end planning. So what would you say for people who are looking at wrapping up 2025, thinking about their taxes going into next year, that should be top of mind for them?
Well, and I think that's really part of taxes and things that you can do with your investment portfolio. Those are two decisions that you really should go through. So the first is, do you have anything in your portfolio, any item in your portfolio that either you can take as a gain or take as a loss? So go through and do these tax loss selling provisions. So look at your portfolio. Do you have gains or losses? And this is only in taxable accounts, folks. This is not in your IRA or your 401k because that's tax deferred. You don't need to do that. But in your taxable account, if you have securities that need to be balanced out, this is the time to do it. That's just step one, number one. Number two would be look at if you are charitably inclined. You should make your donations now. That's one of the things that you can look at. If you want to have a DAF, if people don't, if want to have that as part of their policy, or what's called QCD, and I hate to throw all these letters out, but qualified charitable deduction. If you want to make a donation to a charity, whatever it is, a church, a foundation, your school, you may be able to, if you have to take out of your 401, your IRA, a required minimum distribution, take it from there. And then you get a double whammy. And then, of course, so that's really a good planning tool. And then, of course, you should do all of the things that you need to do, not only on the investment side, but the tax planning side, and do those now while you still have time. And there's still a lot of time before the end of the year, and set yourself up for 2026. And we could have a good 2026. I know a lot of people are saying we've had 3 good years in the market, and of course, that's a pretty good run. What's 26 going to look like? But it's set itself up for a good 26 in a lot of ways. The biggest is GDP numbers look to be pretty good. I mean, the 4% looking to be 5%, Kristen.
That's what I was going to say. As far as that was the other thing that Scott Bessent had said this weekend, as far as overall GDP. I thought it was 3. You said it was 4?
It was 3.8%.
Okay.
So almost 4%. And the projection is for 5. I unfortunately, I missed him yesterday morning. I don't know if I was pre-gaming, getting to my tailgate early, but
the weekends are the weekends. That's sometimes with the Sunday shows. You're like, do I really have to focus on the Sunday shows? Isn't that supposed to be a time to relax and not be thinking about politics? Since I do that the other 5 days
I did watch Fox, and I did watch George Stephanopoulos. So I did catch 2 of them. Unfortunately, I missed CBS.
All right. Yeah. Well, of course, you can get that advice and even better advice from Annex Wealth Management at annexwealth.com. He is Dave Spano. When we come back, I want to get your thoughts. Last week, there was a Netflix announcement as far as buying Warner Brothers. And there was a lot of memes as far as HBO and all of their brand identities. And now they're just going to be Netflix if the deal goes through. And whether or not the deal goes through is beyond our purview. But I just want to get your thoughts on who the winners and losers are when there's this much consolidation in an industry. And so we'll talk about that when we come back with Dave Spano. I am Kristen Bry, and this is Point Taken.
All types of injury lawyers advertise. Cartoon lawyers, bobblehead lawyers, and folks chasing ambulances with text messages. Our clients don't want or need such lawyers. Our clients know, like, and trust that Pasternak and Zergabel will help in their time of need. I'm Frank Pasternak of Pasternak and Zergabel. Jeff Zergabel and I are excellent personal injury lawyers in our community. If you need help after an injury, go to Pasternak and Zergabel at injurywisconsin.com. That's injurywisconsin.com.
WTMJ's John Mercure here. I love my dogs, Bella and Baxter, an important part of our family. They're kind of like kids sometimes, and like kids, they weren't always listening, but I've got it figured out now. Thanks to Matt and his teams at Sit Means Sit Dog Training, our dogs are better behaved. They don't bark as much. They just listen better. They're happy, confident, obedient. Our house is a better house. Sit Means Sit Dog Training turned it around for us. Let them do the same for you. You can start with a free consultation. The website is sitmeanssitwaukesha.com. Sitmeanssitwaukesha.com.
Good Karma Brands is proud to be an equal opportunity employer, providing equal employment, development, and advancement opportunities to all teammates and applicants. To learn more about careers with us, please send an email to talentacquisition@goodkarmabrands.com. That's talentacquisition@goodkarmabrands.com.
All right, that music means we are still talking to CEO of Annex Wealth Management, Dave Spano. And last week, I don't think we talked about this on the show at all, but Netflix agreed to acquire Warner Brothers film and TV studios plus streaming assets. So that means HBO Max and HBO. And both Wall Street and Hollywood, I would say, were left reeling after that announcement, because that would be a pretty big deal, especially considering that already, I think 90% of our media market is owned by 5 corporations. And so it sounds like President Trump over the weekend said he expects to be involved in this decision and that there could be some bumps to whether or not the deal actually goes through. And so regardless of picking apart if the deal is going to go through, I more just wanted your opinion, Dave, on who are the winners and losers? This is when it's this consolidated, like I said, 5 corporations run 90% of our media. Like, who are the winners and losers? And is this good for consumers? Oh,
do you want to start? Do you want to start with the winners or the losers? Where do you want to?
Let's start with the winners.
All right, the winners would be probably Netflix, right?
Yeah.
So if they can get bigger and they can get more content, and as you know, content is king, no matter if it's over terrestrial radio or if it's digital, whatever it is, content is king, and you can see that by the stuff that people continue to consume, but on shows on Netflix and the rest. Shareholders of Warner Brothers could be a winner, right? If you look at that, because it looks like a deal that was, the stocks shot up, and there is even rumor that this is not over yet at $25. That there may be someone else coming to the table, and maybe smaller content providers could also be a winner here, right? Because if you clear out, there's an opportunity for someone to say, well, it's not, if it's on Warner Brothers, and I want to be a bad example, but the Cannes Film Festival, someone who can create more content might be an opportunity. But the losers are many, and one of them for sure is the Warner Brother employees I'd start there, right? Mm-hmm. Because if Netflix comes in and they say, I don't need the CFO, and I don't need the chief operating officer, and I don't need another HR director. And so they probably, in the acquisitions, or sometimes they go through and start letting some people go. So that could be one. But really the bigger question is the consumers. Do the American people get the best out of this if there is only 5 content providers, right? And to me, I think that is the obvious reason why this deal is going to be looked at hard. So you let in with, will this deal even happen? That's the question. And when Trump is out there saying we're going to have to look at it, to me, that's a signal that they're going to have an uphill battle.
Well, that's what, I mean, I was actually surprised to read that this morning, that he kind of was side-eyeing this deal, especially consider, like, what do you see fundamentally being different with this deal than the Paramount Skydance deal that went through earlier this year? Yeah,
well, I mean, I just think in general, you can just see what happens. And let's just pick on a deal that the Wall Street Journal picked on this past week, and that's the Live Nation Ticketmaster deal. Right?
Another quote-unquote monopoly that people are not very happy about.
And if anyone who's dealt with Live Nation knows that, and Ticketmaster, they ain't that nice, right?
No.
And so that's the reason why they've been sued. And then, of course, if I read that story, it's almost shocking, really, to read the story that Gowdy went to go play golf with Trump. Did you read this?
I did not read this.
And you'll love it as a Trump fan. Yeah, I think you should read it. It's in the Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal?
Yes, and you're not going to like it. And It said that that maybe they're coming off the site of the people looking at that deal. So we'll have to look at it. But just goes to show you, when you have that kind of control, you can control pricing. And it's less choice for American people. And then once they have less choice, then they can start raising the prices. And so, of course, that's not a great. I mean, I'm a really free capital. Free enterprise type of person. So the more choice, the better. And when you have a number of organizations, big media is not good for this country, right? In my opinion.
Look at us agreeing.
All right. We agree. We agree on a lot of stuff.
I think we do agree on a lot. But I think that is something that I feel like the more of us can understand as far as this, it's not great to have this few choices as far as things rolling up into each other, especially when we talk about what we said in the first segment is affordability. And so if we see the price of all these different streamings has just kind of like far up and to the right because they can, right?
Right. There's no doubt. And just think about, I don't know what you pay for streaming services, but it's just everything from your cable and your streaming services and your internet and your phone. I mean, these things, this is part of the fact of people saying what's affordable. But it was the other side of the argument, if you remembered a couple of weeks ago. You're making these choices, right? Yeah. I guess you're making these choices to have these things. And so that there is, at some point, people should start saying, maybe I don't need them, right? And as one client said to me, read a book. After they heard you and I talking, right?
Which book did they want you to read?
A book. Just read a book, right? Instead of all of these streaming services. So yeah, no, I'm a free enterprise type of person. I think the more competition is better, and if that makes it more affordable for Americans, I think that's a better decision.
I totally agree, and maybe that's an opportunity for the administration as far as when they talk about affordability and starting to put a little bit more of the screws to some of these big companies that just keep consolidating.
And Kristen, this is going to be the messaging going into the midterm elections. So there's a bit of politics happening here because he now sees that affordability is going to be the conversation. So what are you doing about it? What have you done? You know, some people say, well, he's only been here for 9 months. He didn't have a chance, blah, blah, blah. But all of this is happening to say, how do we make it more affordable for Americans? And there's two sides of the income statement, too. There's revenue and there's expenses, and you can control that. So most people can control both sides of that.
Absolutely. All right. Always love talking to you, Dave. One of my favorite segments on Monday. He is Dave Spano, CEO of Annex Wealth Management. Check them out at annexwealth.com. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you. See ya.